Welcome back, everyone. So we're going to be looking at the weekly performance report. I'm kind of segmenting this away from my normal weekly publication as to not contaminate the two and to shorten the length of the video as well. And even though I'm seemingly recording this back to back with the video I published, I might say that it would also be beneficial to do this because I'd be less tired of talking, so I could perhaps elaborate more on positions. But I guess the video I'm publishing this week is a lot shorter, so maybe that'll give me more time to talk. But anyway, I seemingly have some nasal congestion, so I kind of don't want to talk. But whatever. On to the business. My positions. That's what people are here for. Let's talk about them. So, unfortunately, I can't get them all on the screen at the same time, so there will be a link in the description box below if you want to go over to Substack and click on the weekly performance report. You can look at these things and examine stuff, or just pause the screen while I'm scrolling. So, some things of note. Cash, I'm up to 5%. I plan on stacking cash for the foreseeable future. If I want to get involved in any new names, then in all probability, the capital I use from that will come as the consequence of me selling a current position. But there's nothing I'm really too terribly interested in, and therefore, as a consequence, I don't plan on selling anything. Now, with that, the reason I'm at 5% cash and $156, if you don't know, to sum things up, just read this. Go over there and read it. This is what Cup of Coffee is. I contribute $50 a week. I started this in January 1st, 2023, so that's why it's $156 and not, like some of these other YouTube people with $1 million or something. But the reason I'm at that cash position is because I sold FNV, Franco-Nevada. Why did I sell it? Is it because I'm bearish on it? No, it actually kind of irritates me that I sold it because the best I can tell, not that I'm a chartist or anything, but it looks like it's bottomed out. Looks like a lot of the gold names have bottomed out. So this would not be the time to be selling. This would be the time to be buying. I sold it for two reasons. Number one reason is because it was a failed trade in which, as far as I'm concerned, I had a 50-50 probability of getting it right or not getting it right. Well, I got it wrong. So there you have it. I was down roughly 13% on the position. That did not affect my selling at all. It was a trade that I didn't mind holding as a position. And the reason I sold it, and by the way, I also thought to myself, if I bought it when a more disciplined person would have bought it in my position, I'd only be down roughly 3 or 4%. But I jumped the gun on my purchase of it, and thus I'm down 13 or 14%. But that didn't influence my decision of selling it. The reason I sold it is because, number one, well, to a lesser extent, I'm anxious about not having much cash. The larger my portfolio gets, the longer it'll take me to stack up cash. But of course, I don't want to stack up too much cash because, as I've noted many times before, once I get to roughly 20%, especially 25%, 30% cash, I'm pretty much guaranteed to underperform the market. Unless we're in a downtrend, in which case it might save me. But so I kind of need to keep it less than 20, but more than 1. So I sold it because I wanted to buy more Glasshouse. There is an indicator that I will not disclose, proprietary Cup of Coffee Capital indicator, I'll call it, it's more right than not. You have to give me kudos thus far over a 13-month period of being able to buy the dip pretty well and not buying tops. Will that trend continue? I don't know. But historically, the proprietary indicators I use, let's call them, has aided me quite well in not getting steamrolled. And I swear, this indicator occurred for Glass House just a few days ago, last week, and the stock is still up, is up 6 or 8%. Now, I would say that shouldn't happen, but to live in a world where things are dictated by should instead of what is a world in which you're detached from and thus, in all probability, will not do well in. So, it's a probability thing. 8 out of 10 times, Glass House would have rolled over. It didn't. So, that's the consequence of the other 10 or 20%. So, I'm now kind of stuck in limbo with cash on hand that I was going to put into Glass House. So, there's that. That's line item 1. Don't worry, it's not going to take that long through all the line items. Another point of irritation is I own Grown Rogue, ticker symbol GRUSF, the one right beneath cash. I had a limit order. Normally I do market orders. I'm buying a few shares at a time, like in liquid enough names, and I just put in a market order. Not always, but often enough. And with these particular industry, which Grown Rogue is a participant in, I'm not really sure if you get censored for using the word on YouTube, so I'll just dodge it because my channel's small enough as it is. I don't need it artificially suppressed because of censorship. I never got clipped on that limit order, and then it expired, and I'm not quite sure because it appeared to me that the intraday order should have hit it, but I didn't get filled, so that's irritating. And that was about 30% ago, so that's really irritating. 30% in performance of the stock. So with that said, these names in this particular industry, that Grown Rogue, Glass House, Organigram, Green Thumb, and MSOS are participants in, has kind of done what I thought it would do, which is why you saw me position so largely in it so quickly. But still, I'm kind of amazed by it. And there has to be some shakeout and gut check, I would think, but who knows. And maybe when the news kind of dies down over the spring and nothing exciting happens and people get bored and we know I'll not say anything too derogatory. The retail investors who participate in this segment chronically need to get their fix with something new to get excited about, and whether that's good or bad excitement, they just need excitement. And so maybe that's when it'll occur. And then either that'll be the top or that'll be an interim top and consolidation and a buy the dip moment. We'll see. Anyway, the fact that Grown Rogue is my top best performing position is interesting because it's also my smallest position, and in this particular industry. And I tried to double up on the position, but my limit order didn't get filled, and it's only gone up 30 or 40% since that happened. So this kind of shows you the short-term volatility in a market. It's beautiful, especially when you juxtapose it. Let me scroll down to Transocean, in which I'm down 25% on. I've been in that name and added to it throughout the course of last year. I'm down 25%. So here's one name that is now currently 6.5% of my portfolio that I've been in for 13 months, let's just call it, for my initial buy, and I'm down 25%. And then there's other names like Grown Rogue, which I've been in for a month, we'll call it, and is up 64%. So the performance spread here is a 90% difference. Transocean is down 25, Grown Rogue's up 65. So Grown Rogue relatively has outperformed my Transocean position on a percentage performance basis by 90%. Here's one name I've owned for over a year and another name I've owned for a month. And the one that I've owned for a month is beating the other name by 90%. You know, there was a chart, and I still might do it one day, that I got asked this question about what did I think would be my best performer in the next 3 months. And normally the shorter the time frame, the less likely you are to succeed. And the way I was going to kind of demonstrate this was in uranium. You'll see URNM, my Sprout Uranium Miner ETF position, I'm up 55% on. At one point it was 65%. Another name that I've held for roughly a year. And if you go back the last 3 months, let's call it, or 6 months, you'll see that half of, it doesn't matter, you can do days or weeks. And you'll see that roughly, 40, 50%, somewhere in there, the days and or weeks are down days or down weeks. Which is to say that if you constrained yourself to trading URNM on a daily time frame, the probability of success, this is anecdotal in a sample size of 1 and so on and so forth, so keep all of the bias and fallacious errors in mind. But if you said over the last 6 months, on a daily time frame, you have a roughly 50% chance of making money or losing money. And then on a weekly time frame, you have roughly a 50% chance of making or losing money. But if you, in this example, look at it on a 6-month time frame, sample size 1, all the errors, keep it in mind, you have had 100% chance of making money. So by expanding and enlarging and broadening the time frame, you give a thesis and a theme time to play out. So I don't know 3 months. In 1 month, I was not expecting Grown Rogue. I thought Grown Rogue, with all the excitement and stuff, I think I bought in at, does it say cost basis? No, I can only capture so much on a screenshot, so there's no cost basis. I want to say my cost basis for Grown Rogue is 31 cents. That's why I want to say. And yeah, it doesn't have the daily price. We'll just call it 31 cents. Okay? So I thought that Grown Rogue, if excitement maintained in this market segment, which it has, I thought by now maybe Grown Rogue would be 40 cents. Now keep in mind, that's a 33% increase. Okay, but it's up 65, so I got it wrong by 100%. I thought it would be up 30%, it's up 65%. So I got, 30% versus 60% is a relative 100% difference. And, or a 30% based upon, it's a geometric, anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Either way, I got it wrong by a lot. And that's in a month's time frame. I mean, it'd be fun for shits and giggles to say any month, what do you think will do best in the next 3 months? But I almost bet that I would be more wrong than I am right. I remember last year, but the top performers in my portfolio have rotated greatly. At one point, gold names, where is it? Kinross. Where's Kinross at now? Kinross is up 21%. At one point, it was my top performer. At one point, LPX, Louisiana Pacific, like the worst name I could have bought Boise Cascade. Builder's First Source is why I wanted to buy, but never did. Blue Links, like all of them, up 100%. LPX, 22%, like whatever. But at one point, it was my top performer. I had SurgePay. I sold SurgePay because I wasn't following up on it, and I'm not going to own something if I'm too lazy to follow up on it. Don't know why I didn't follow up on it, just didn't. So I sold it. Well, had I held on to it, it'd be my top performer. And so my own laziness cost me a top performer because I think I'd be up roughly 80 or 90% on it right now. So it'd be my top performer. So it's kind of interesting. And then at one point, the offshore oil plays, Tidewater, Valaris, and Transocean were my top performers. And on it goes. St. Joe's never been a top performer. But that's what it is. So these are just some rants. Think Organigram. I didn't think that thing would be up 40%. If you had to ask me if I thought it'd be up or down in a month, like, even with this undercurrent of enthusiasm towards that sector, it's a Canadian name. Like, I would have gave it 50-50 odds of being flat or down. Like, to talk about up is a ludicrous thing even. So being that it's up 40% though, it's like, didn't see that coming. Kodiak Gas Services. I didn't think that was going to get recognized and noticed as quickly as it did, but it seems like, I don't know, they're doing roadshow tours plus I can't remember if I wrote an update. I did not write an update on Kodiak. But it's really getting a lot of recognition. It's beating my Town Square, which is up 25%. So you just don't know. That's what I'm getting at. Sprout Physical, SRUUF, the fourth one down, or third one down if you don't count cash. I'm up 46%. I remember buying that on what I think it looked like a little mini Head and Shoulders pattern on a daily or weekly time frame, and I had to buy. My proprietary indicator told me to buy. I was reluctant. I had to buy something because that's the name of the game, and so I did. I bought a little something. I wanted to make it a 10% position. I think I bought 2% of my portfolio, and I was like, well, if it falls more, I can add. And there was a lot of exuberance in the market, and I was concerned about that. And so it's up 46%. And man, just imagine if I made that a 10% position. I mean, it would make a multi-percent difference to my yearly performance. Had my Sprout Physical uranium got filled, and I just said, screw it, bought it, filled it at 10% of my portfolio when I was supposed to buy, my yearly performance or my performance overall in my portfolio would have a multi-percent difference. So you can kind of get a feel and a gauge for a thematic play, and then you choose individual participants in that play to express it. But, you know, I wanted to buy a basket. My proprietary indicator for wholesale distributor of building product, manufacturers of building products, like Louisiana Pacific is, that indicator still has not triggered me to buy it, but I bought it anyway because of some FOMO and stuff. And I could always dollar cost average down, so I didn't mind. It was a small position. And I was actually going to buy it in Blue Links, but I didn't have enough cash on hand, so I could only buy Louisiana Pacific, and I didn't realize that I couldn't buy Blue Links until I realized I didn't have enough cash, so I never bought it. And that's funny because I think I'd be up 80% on Blue Links, and had I bought a basket approach of that, I didn't, because my, proprietary stuff I use to buy stuff, I mean, I was already violating my rules, but I wanted to buy it, so I did. But had I did a basket approach, bought it, Boise Cascade, Blue Links, and Builder's First Source, boy, I'd be doing well. And Louisiana Pacific's the laggard. So you see a theme, you buy some preferred names, however you determine that, and then you play it. That's what this portfolio is, essentially. Call it, not too long ago, I'm going to break the numbers down simple. They're not reflective of current conditions, but at one point, uranium was roughly 20%. Then the other theme was offshore oil. That was at roughly 30%. And then gold was at roughly 10%. And then I just had some, 20, 30% of cash. I spent last year multiple months at around 20 to 30% cash. And then so the other 20% of the portfolio, let's call it, just were some other names. Surge Pay, Town Square, Kodiak Gas Services, things like that. So now my portfolio is roughly, quick numbers, uranium's roughly at 18%, I think. The offshore oil is at roughly 26, 28%. And then this unnamed sector that I don't want to get censored on is sitting at, well, what is this? When I initiated my positions, it was sitting at 12%. Right now, it's probably, I don't know, 15, 20%. Some of these names ran up hard, but maybe not. Then I have some new names like the specialty alloy producers. That's sitting about 4% of my portfolio. Leonardo DRS, which, like, why do I even own it? But maybe I should. Then I have some, platinum group metals, Sibanye Stillwater at 1.78% of my portfolio. Then you add the triple flag position. Then you add the Kinross position, that's 7-8%. So I'm kind of more diversified in a sense, which I don't really care for. And I'm just kind of holding on to the gold names. It's a question of when, not if. Like I said, the only reason I sold the Franco-Nevada was because that was a trade turned position, which I didn't mind, but I wanted to take that money. I thought it was, I didn't mind it. I sold it. If I don't get to buy any more Glass House or whatever else, fine. I'll just cash on hand. I'm collecting 5%. So that's that. A bunch of tangents. Didn't really talk about anything too much in detail. The offshore oil names should be reporting earnings in the next few weeks. I'll be doing a piece on that, which I'm sure my initial original fans would appreciate. Not to call them fans, viewers. So that's that. That's my tangent. I think, I closed the week down 0.19%. I'm underperforming the SPY. Now, keep in mind, this image is only updated at the beginning or end, however you want to look at it, of each month. So the SPY's up more than 2.16% at this point. And then, I don't know. I'm probably still floating around negative 1% for the year. So, see what happens? Onwards and upwards. Thank you for watching.